I know I'm saying this for like the 5th time, but I think I finally have faith in the DC universe. Hey guys, welcome back to the video. So we just got James Gunn's official slate for the future of the DCU, including a bunch of movies and TV shows. And so in this video, I'll be breaking it down, going project by project and giving you guys all of my thoughts and opinions on it. As always, let me know you guys think of every single one of these projects in the comments down below. And there will be timestamps in the description if you want to hear my thoughts on a specific project. But before we get into it, if you guys are new on here and you enjoy all my movie and TV show reviews, reactions, and breakdowns, make sure to subscribe and notification on so you don't miss any time I upload a new video or go live. Both are wasting more time. Let's get right into it. Now, before talking about the first project, we have to talk about how this universe is going to be split up, and James Gunn revealed it's going to be split up into chapters. This first chapter, this first slate that we got today is going to be titled Gods and Monsters. And so this you guys will see throughout the entirety of the slate. We have gods and we have monsters. And so I think this is, number one, a really unique way to split it off. It's like Marvel's phases. Chapters, I think, is a great way to label it. But also gods and monsters is a very nice way to actually give the chapter a title instead of chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And so I like that they're labeling it something, and that also gives you a general aim of what you're building towards and what you're really trying to get to at the end. Now, the first project that we'll be getting is Superman Legacy. Now, James Gunn has stated a few times in the past before actually revealing the slate, and when he actually announced when the slate will be released in sometime January, James Gunn did state that along with those on the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. And so I think that this is a very interesting movie to start off with. It's the one that everyone would think of first. Superman, he's the base of your DC universe, and that's where you start it all. Where I find this project to be the most interesting is, yes, it's going to be a movie. James Gunn has already confirmed that, but it's also titled Superman Legacy, which could mean a lot of things. Obviously, we're going to be following Clark Kent, but I think this inherently poses the question of what will this movie be about? And I do think, though people might think it's a little bit too early for this, I think it'll be about a young Superman, because obviously Henry Cavill can't be playing him, and so it has to be a younger Superman. And so I think it'll be following a younger Superman that is obviously using his powers and being acclimated to this world. And James Gunn in a tweet did also reply to someone else's tweet saying, I'll put the tweet up on screen, but he basically said no. But it sounded kind of like rhetorical. It sounded kind of like a joke, or like he was like, obviously it's going to be an origin story, but he just said no to make fun of the, I don't know what he meant by that, but I think it works even if it's an origin story or not, because I think legacy inherently means something of you're trying to figure out like what your legacy is going to be. And as someone that is young and as powerful as Superman, legacy is something that he could be battling with on the inside. And so I think that's a very cool thing to like use as your first Superman movie, let alone your first full DC universe movie. I did do like a pitch of the DC universe series with me on TikTok. I only ended up doing like a few episodes, but Superman was the movie that I would start off the universe with as well. Now, we also do know that every one of the main trinity, or like the trinity of superheroes, pretty much all of them are going to be recast: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And so Superman is going to be recast here. So who do I think should play Superman? Honestly, I have no idea. I have fan castings for like older Superman, but one of the ones for younger Superman that does come to my mind is Gabriel LaBelle. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He played Steven Spielberg in The Fabelmans, and he was absolutely amazing. One of the best performances in all of 2022. Arguably one of the most underrated performances the last few years, in my opinion. I think he would be an amazing young Superman, but I don't know. I don't have much in terms of like predictions for villains, all that kind of stuff, but I just think the title itself is very, very interesting, with it being a legacy and just what you're going to do with the power and stuff like that. So I think in general, I'm excited for this project, and I think it's the perfect way to start off your universe. Again, obviously they started with Man of Steel, but here it doesn't seem like it's going to be something too stylized, in the sense that it's stylized in a negative way where other directors have to conform a lot to be able to ever use this character in their own projects. The next project is actually a Supergirl project, and I don't know much to say about this just because I don't really know much about Supergirl, but my biggest concern going into the Supergirl movie would be, is it the same Supergirl that we're seeing in the Flash movie? And if so, is our Flash going to stay the same? And also, is our Aquaman going to stay the same? Because we don't know where all that is headed, but I feel like Gal Gadot's out, Ben Affleck is obviously out, Henry Cavill is obviously out, but where do our external heroes lie? And that's kind of where Supergirl comes into play, because we already have a Supergirl in a Flash movie, which is coming out this year. And so I'm assuming in this general slate of what we're getting that 2023 is going to be the year to wrap up your DC universe, or the DC extended universe, I guess, and just bring together all the stuff that we've had in the last like decade, the very somehow few movies that we gotten from this extended universe, wrap all of those storylines up, and then this obviously starts the rebuild. And I'm assuming there will be some characters that are lingering on, like I'll talk about a few projects down from here. But again, Supergirl, don't have many thoughts on the project, just interested to see if it's the same Supergirl, if it's Sasha Kaya, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm wondering if it's going to be her or if she's going to be recasted, or what that whole like situation is going to be with the characters. And that also again brings into the question Flash and Aquaman and stuff like that, but we'll see. But now to the project that I'm most excited, scared, interested. There's a lot of weird things with this one, just because there's a lot of inferring that we can do. And that next project is The Brave and the Bold, which is going to be Batman and Damian Wayne. And so I actually didn't know this. I don't know much about Batman's like sons. I don't know much about the Robins storyline, and so I didn't know that this was Batman's biological son. I don't know all the different Robins, Nightwing, Red Hood. I don't know how all of those stories play out, because I'm just not an avid Batman reader, or like Robin and Batman reader. But yeah, there's a tweet that I wanted to bring up from a couple months. I think it was a couple months. You know, it was like early December, I think. So in James Gunn's tweet, he was like tweeting about like a cheese plate, and in the background, someone noticed 2 or 3 volumes of a Batman run by Grant Morrison, if I'm not mistaken, is his name. And so I did a little bit more digging, and just in general, a lot of leakers, scoopers, etc., like they've all been tweeting this photo, and just this photo that's on screen right now has become pretty iconic in regards to talking about the DC Universe Batman. And I looked more into the Grant Morrison run, and I kind of tried to understand this, because whenever you talk about Damian Wayne, since it's his biological kid, Batman has to be on a lot of the older side. He's not a younger Batman by any means, and so he wouldn't pair with a younger Superman. So I found this article, and they basically say that Batman is 43 years old when he meets Damian in this specific Grant Morrison run. So obviously they're not going to go word for word, bar for bar for this comic run. It's just something that James Gunn is inspired by, and that's why he's making this a movie, right, with these two characters. But the way that I think they could explain this in the timeline, potentially, like this is just a random possibility that I came up with, right, is Superman Legacy could be more of a prequel to the DC universe, setting up Superman, making him obviously the main hero, but the main like time that the DC universe takes place in, like the Superman movie will take place before, and the Batman movie, like Brave and Bold, will take place in the current time of whatever the DCU may be in, which is, I'm assuming, will be 2023, but I'm not sure how they're gonna do that. And so at that moment in time, that's why Batman could end up being older. And then if they want to do other Batman movies with other Robins, if like other Robins, they can just, because I think this is the last Robin that's in this run, if I'm not mistaken, from the articles that I'm reading. Again, I have not read these volumes of Grant Morrison's Batman run, so I wouldn't know. I'm just going off of what I've read online. But it seems like this is the last Robin that he's with, and so they could do prequel series or some movies, whatever they want to do to explore the other Robins and stuff like that. And so I don't really know, like, again, timeline wise, how this would work, because it seems like a 43-year-old Batman doesn't really fit with the super young Superman, or at least someone that doesn't look Henry Cavill's age, a lot younger than Henry Cavill at that. So again, I don't know how timeline wise this is gonna work, but I'm excited to see how they play this out. I was interested to see if they're doing a Batman project in general, and to see like what characters they would implement, just because obviously the Batman, and I'll talk about Elseworlds Movies at the very end of this video, but you guys know I love the Batman. I have the hat, the shirt, poster you can see in the very corner right there. I love the Batman, and so I was excited to see where they take Batman in the DC universe. And as we know, Matt Reeves has multiple times tweeted, James Gunn has tweeted that they're leaving the Batman in the own thing. And so we knew there were going to be 2 running Batmen. And it's interesting to see that they're introducing Robin. They're introducing Damian Wayne right away. And that instantly creates a separation between the Batman that we know in The Batman with Robert Pattinson and then the Batmans that we're getting in the DC universe. And so I think right away introducing Damian, introducing Robin, and even having this as an older Batman, if that's what they go with, which I think they have to if it's his biological kid. He can't be like 13, or like Damian can't be like 13 and Batman's like 25 or 30 or whatever, like young, like how Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is. And so I like that there's a difference in these 2 versions of Batman right away. And I like that they're taking their time and they know what to separate. And this is also what Matt Reeves talked about. I made a video about this. Matt Reeves talked about his interviews with James Gunn and how they're going to be splitting up this universe. And Matt Reeves specifically said they're basically just doing like, they're basically just like floating on top of each other and like they're just hovering over each other to make sure that nothing that they're doing is colliding too much. And this makes complete sense. And we see how this plays out right here with the introduction of Robin in Batman's first movie in the DC universe. And then obviously we have Matt Reeves as Batman, which probably won't end up getting a Robin, like with this being the case and having this Robin already. I also feel like multiple different Robins in different universes would be a little bit too difficult to follow. And like I mentioned before, they're obviously recasting Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and so Batman is another character that's going to be recasted. If it's an older Batman, I would love to see Jensen Ackles take a shot at it if we're talking like our 43-year-old Batman. But if not, if we're talking a younger Batman, again, I don't have too many fan castings. I like Robert Pattinson, and so anyone that gives his kind of vibe. I mean, I'm assuming it won't be the same type of character that Robert Pattinson's Batman is, and they'll probably try to differ it in a way that doesn't feel like they're 2 similar characters at the same exact time. But I don't know. Like, I don't really have a fan cast for me personally. I'm just here to see what they do, and I'm really interested in seeing how they introduce Damian right away and how this all fits into the timeline. Now, the next project on the slate is Paradise Lost. It's a Wonder Woman, Game of Thrones-esque, Themyscira-based show, and this sounds really, really interesting to me. Now, right when I found out about this, my best friend and I had this conversation. We were like, this could really be one of the best HBO shows ever because it's like a super powered Game of Thrones, and that's kind of fire. And like, HBO has this amazing production quality, and there are other shows on this slate. And so, yes, I think they'll be really cool, but just getting that Game of Thrones feel, and in my opinion, what HBO does with like a very like limited base of what Game of Thrones is, but elevating it to a different level. I know a lot of people might not agree with me on this example, but I was talking to my friend about this, that Succession feels like a Finance Bros Game of Thrones, right? And so you have an Amazonian Game of Thrones, and I'm here for it. It sounds really, really cool. I'm really interested in the inner politics of Themyscira and like the choices that have to be made. And I think this would be a really, really great way to introduce us to Wonder Woman in a TV show. I've always been a big advocate for like studios taking advantage of the TV platform, and I think James Gunn instantly knew to do this, unlike where it took Marvel like 3 phases to actually get onto a streaming platform, because when they started, obviously streaming platforms weren't really like at that capacity, I guess, to produce that much original content for a whole universe. But this universe is starting at the perfect time where they have HBO Max at their disposal. They have this company that has a good name, they have a good reputation, they have amazing production quality, and they have amazing factors backing them up. And so if you don't take this all to your advantage, then you're really missing out. And James Gunn, he knew where, in my opinion, where the money is, like where you can get the most time with Wonder Woman and actually understand the Amazonians and actually understand Themyscira and understand her character. I'm not gonna lie, I thought Gal Gadot, she was good as Wonder Woman. Like, her performance is not good at all, but she like felt like a badass character. Like, she felt like an empowering character that would like face any threat, a symbol of hope, and I really like that. But her character herself felt hollow because in her solo movies, I never really felt connected to not only her, but her home and the characters around her, especially in her home. One thing I liked about Zack Snyder's Justice League specifically was that in that very in the raid of Themyscira, where Steppenwolf comes in and he takes the cube and stuff like that, I felt emotionally like bad for these. But I mean, first of all, they were getting absolutely slaughtered in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So if you don't feel bad, then there's something wrong, right? Like they're getting manslaughtered, right? I think if you actually build up these characters, then it's not going to take a big manslaughter by an alien to actually make you care for them, because you have what, like, say like 8-9 episodes that are 45 minutes to an hour long, with actually really great writing and great detail and character relationships like HBO consistently delivers to us. I think this show was a recipe for success, and I'm excited to see this. I'm interested to see who they cast as Wonder Woman as well. Wonder Woman, I think the actress Layla Woodry, I don't know, I'm not going to try to butcher her name, but the actress from Moon Knight, I thought she was pretty good, and I think she could play a good Wonder Woman. I think also the actress from Andor, and I think she's in Morbius as well. I'm blanking on her name, but she is amazing as well. I think she would be great as Wonder Woman as well. So I have like a few fan casts, but it's nothing that significant. But moving on, the next project that we have on this slate is Booster Gold. Again, don't know much about this character. I mean, he's, from what I've read and from what I understand, what my friends have told me, he's more of a funny character that like he has like time traveling abilities, and even at one point I think he like went back and saved JFK or something like that from dying. Like he has all these really funny elements, and so my like thing is, I think James Gunn could direct this movie. Like this could be the one movie in the DC universe that he doesn't end up directing, because he says that he's writing the Superman project, but it makes sense because it's like the start of his universe, right? But I don't really see him directing any of these other projects. Maybe like, I mean, I think he'll be in the writer's room for all of them, but I think he'll be directing Booster Gold if it's any of them. And obviously Peacemaker season 2, nothing like that really got announced. And so I think he'll be putting his time into directing and writing a Booster Gold project, which does seem like something up James Gunn's alley. Again, writing a Superman movie doesn't seem like something that would be up his alley, but I think Booster Gold is something that seems like he would be good at, and we get those vibes from Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. We don't have any castings or anything like that, so I think that Chris Pratt would be kind of cool, because we know that Chris Pratt might probably be in the DC universe, because we got some rumors about that a while ago. So I think that would also be really, really interesting. But yeah, I don't have much other thoughts on Booster Gold, just because I don't know much about the character, and additionally, it just seems like a funnier character that's like funny, stupid, and so I think it fits into James Gunn's alley of writing. Next up on the slate is a movie that I'm interested in just because it's like the first of its type ever, and it's the first animated movie to tie into like a bigger universe, and that's going to be the Creature Commandos movie. Again, I know absolutely nothing about this team, so there's not much informational stuff I can give to you about what this team does and stuff like that, but we know that it's going to be an animated film that's canon to the DC universe, and that's a big step, because even Marvel hasn't really done anything that feels fully canon. I mean, What If is canon technically in the multiverse, but it's not like directly tying into our main timeline in the MCU, and it seems like Creature Commandos is going to. So again, not many thoughts on this, but I'm really interested to see if this is like an HBO Max exclusive theatrical release, where we're going in the direction of implementing animated films, because again, this is something brand new, and I'm excited to see where it heads. Additionally, we'll be getting an Amanda Waller show. I think this is just going to be something that really ties in characters. This could be like a Peacemaker season 2 type of thing, or something where it just wraps everything together on the lower level. I mean, I think obviously like post-credits of Black Adam, that's not going to be canon to the DC universe, I think, but I'm just saying like Waller can still be a character that ties together our gods with our monsters to our street level heroes. There can be a lot of tie-ins in that regard. And so I'm excited to see what they do with the show, but again, we don't really know much, so my expectations can't be that high. And then we're getting a Green Lantern show about Hal and John. I'm not that educated on Green Lantern, but I know that HBO show that's been in development for the longest time that needs to come around. And in that one initially was, if I'm not mistaken, was supposed to be like an anthology series following a bunch of different Green Lanterns every single episode. And apparently it was supposed to have like one cohesive storyline through the middle, but I'm not sure about that specifically. But like I said, this show is going to follow Hal and John. And so my biggest question is like, I mean, again, I don't know much about Green Lantern, but my biggest question is like, is this going to generally be the same show that was already in development? If so, will they push it up on the slate maybe? Or will it still be on the back end of this slate? And like, I don't know, like what's development looking like is basically my question, because this show has been in development for like a year or two. We haven't seen like Green Lantern on the big screen in forever. So what are we doing here? Next project that I want to talk about is The Authority. Again, no clue what the hell this project is even going to be about. Obviously, it's going to be about the team, The Authority, but I don't know much about it, so I'm going to read you guys off the current members because that's pretty much all I can give you in this video, because again, a very unknown team to me. But there's Christine, Trelane, Deathblow, the Engineer, Flint, Freefall, Grifter, Jack Hawksmoor, the High, Rainmaker, and Swift. And from the enemies, former members, base of operations, all that kind of stuff, I can't identify anything because I don't know anything about this team. I'm interested in this as well as Creature Commandos, in the sense that it's kind of like the Suicide Squad, where I have no idea who's on the team and what's going to happen, but I'm here for it. And it's just like, I guess it's cool. Like, it's kind of what Marvel is doing now, in the sense of like, you have the Avengers, you have the Thunderbolts, you have all these separate little teams that are going to end up coming together, right? And so I don't know what they're building towards by introducing all of these smaller teams, but I'm excited to see where it goes, I guess, because like we've seen in the past of all of these franchises, smaller teams can come together. Like, it doesn't have to be like where the Suicide Squad, like almost everyone in that movie dies off except for like the few at the very end. And so like, it doesn't have to be like a complete massacre, and they could use these characters and build them up over time. But even a lot of leakers and scoopers have said like, yeah, they're gonna make movies and shows about these nobody characters because they want to give them spotlight. Fans want to see them. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a single fan that probably wants to see The Authority, because I did not even know these characters existed until this slate came out. But it's not just for the sake of building a universe to get to the Justice League, I guess. So again, I'll talk about that in just a second here after I talk about this final project. But yeah, the final project is Swamp Thing. Again, Swamp Thing, interesting. Don't know what they're going to do for a movie. Probably going to end up being like an origin story to give us more of like a compelling, like full movie arc. But I don't know, like not many thoughts on Swamp Thing. Seems interesting. I'm excited to see a live action design, because that's going to be bad. Hopefully they lean more into the horror tones in regards to that. And just in general, like, I hope that like Swamp Thing is a project where they can kind of dive fully into the horror, because a lot of these projects seem a little bit more lighthearted in regards to like, they're not full on like thrillers or anything like that. I think The Brave and the Bold will end up being a little bit more of a detective action. Like the Batman, I would say, is more detective over action, but I think Brave and the Bold will end up being a better mix of the two. Whereas like all of the other shows and movies and stuff like that, they feel like they're just going to be like superhero genre movies, whereas Swamp Thing has that potential to be a horror thriller genre movie. And before I go on to rant about just random thoughts on this slate and stuff like that, we did get announced the Elseworlds movies. The Batman 2 is moving forward. The sequel to Matt Reeves is the Batman 1. Matt Reeves is writing it. Robert Pattinson is returning. The Penguin show is moving forward. All of the HBO spin-offs are moving forward for the Batman 2. I don't have much other thoughts on that, because I make Batman videos pretty much like once a month or once every other month at this point. And so I'm, as you guys know, very excited for it. I'm so happy that James Gunn is letting Matt Reeves do what he wants to do. And I don't want to take up any more time talking about it, because I feel like I talk about this universe so much. But nevertheless, just general thoughts on this universe. No script, no nothing. I'm excited, but I'm also cautiously optimistic, because I've been excited many times before. We don't know castings. We don't know exact release dates. We don't know where they're exactly going, but we have chapter 1. And I think chapter 1, for me personally, is enough to say that I'm excited to see where this universe goes. Gods and Monsters is automatically a chapter 1 title that's interesting to me. And like I said in the very beginning of this video, before I even read off this entire slate to you guys, Gods and Monsters seems like a slate title that feels very baseline. You're introducing your gods, you're introducing your monsters, you're introducing your characters to this universe. And I think to a certain extent, a movie like Creature Commandos, of The Authority, like, those don't really seem as important to me. And I understand what James Gunn is trying to do. I understand that he likes these lesser known heroes and he wants to get them out there. He wants to please the fans with a Booster Gold movie and stuff like that, because it's a movie the fans have wanted for a long time, and I totally understand that, the fan service side of it. But when you have a limited number of movies, I can respect the fact that not every movie is building up to something, because I use this excuse for the MCU that, and especially Phase 4, just because they're not building up to something doesn't mean the projects aren't great on their own. They allow for as much creative freedom as possible for not fitting into like the big overarching story, and it feels like that's exactly what this phase is going to be for the DC universe. But I don't know how I feel about it being so early. I feel like earlier you have to have a focus on certain characters, on certain teams, on certain elements in order to build a compelling universe that we care about. My favorite thing about Marvel Phase 1, and I hate comparing Marvel Phase 1 to the DCU Chapter 1 because, number one, this is like hella projects, but also the DC universe is more, it feels like more of a widespread thing rather than Marvel Phase 1 being focused on one team. But I also feel like what Marvel Phase 1 does so well is it feels so like tight-knit, and that immediately gives you care for the MCU, the cinematic universe that you're watching. You feel like you care for every angle right away because every story is personal. Every character connects with every other character. But then when you look at the DC universe, I'm excited that we have all of these different projects. It's going to allow for some amazing creative freedom, and these projects that we might never have gotten to see, like Booster Gold, Creature Commandos, even Swamp Thing, right? I'm excited for all of those projects, but I don't know how I feel about this much variety in the very beginning of the universe, because I feel like to a certain extent in the very beginning, you need to have a level of conformity, I guess I would say. Like, I hate to be that guy that's like, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, build up to 5. I don't mean it like that, but I feel like it's a little bit too out there, and I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope I look back at this video and be like, Arian, you're an idiot, because James Gunn pulled this off and it's amazing. I mean, I have no doubts that the individual projects will be amazing. My biggest fear is just that I'll have a lack of investment in this world. I'll have a lack of investment in this DC universe because we never have a personal connection to a character dynamics, and actually understanding the universe that's being built. I doubt that I won't care for like Superman, Supergirl, Batman, and these individual characters. But when the world is at stake, whenever Darkseid or whoever's asked they're going to pick to actually come and like destroy Earth, whoever that ends up being, I'm afraid that I won't have that connection because we spent so much time exploring a bunch of different elements and a bunch of different aspects. But guys, that's it for all of my thoughts on James Gunn's DCU Chapter 1 slate. Again, I'm cautiously excited, optimistic, and interested in pretty much all of these projects. But again, we've been through so many recastings, reboots, and retcons that I can't help but be just a little bit worried. But I have no doubts that James Gunn will definitely pull this one off. As always, let me know what you guys think of this slate in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.